You've been sitting, waiting, wondering, and praying, but the truth is God has already placed inside of you everything you need for the season you're stepping into. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment because the perfect moment is now. The door has been cracked open. The opportunity is in front of you, and the power to walk through it is already in your hands. Some of you have been waiting for a sign, but the sign is the breath in your body. The sign is the vision that won't leave your mind. The sign is the dream that keeps waking you up in the middle of the night. You've been crying, Lord, when will you move? And God is saying, when will you move? Faith is not a feeling you sit with. It's a force you walk in. It is the bridge between what you see and what you know. You can't keep talking about faith and never step into it. You can't keep praying for change and never prepare for it. You can't keep asking for a miracle and not make room for it. Faith without works is like a seed you never plant. It has the potential to grow, but it will never produce fruit until it's in the ground. You've been holding the seed in your hand, waiting for the rain, but the soil is waiting for you. This is the season to stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Stop waiting for somebody to push you. Stop waiting for the right people to notice you. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not too late. The God who spoke the universe into existence put his spirit in you, and if that power could create the stars, it can surely create a way for you. But it won't happen in theory. It will happen when you take the step. I know it's scary. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it feels like the odds are stacked against you. But faith thrives in the impossible. Faith is the currency of the unseen. You don't need the whole staircase to take the first step. You just need enough courage to put one foot in front of the other. And the moment you move, heaven will back you up. Some of you are one decision away from a breakthrough, but you've been talking yourself out of it because you don't feel qualified. Let me tell you, God never asked for your qualifications. He asked for your obedience. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting until you have it all figured out. The disciples didn't have all the answers when Jesus called them. They just dropped their nets and followed him. Sometimes faith looks like letting go of the familiar to step into the unknown. If you keep waiting for everything to line up perfectly, you will miss your moment. The enemy will whisper every reason why it can't work, why you're not enough, why the timing isn't right. But if God put it in your heart, it's because he already placed in your hand the power to do it. You don't need to borrow courage from anyone else. You don't need permission from the people who doubt you. The permission was granted when God formed you. You have prayed long enough. You have fasted long enough. You have cried long enough. Now it's time to act, not because you're reckless, but because you're ready. Ready doesn't mean you have all the resources. It means you have the resolve. Ready doesn't mean you know every detail. It means you trust God with what you can't see. When you take that first step, something shifts in the atmosphere. When you make that call, submit that application, start that business, write that book, forgive that person, or step into that ministry, chains begin to break, not just around you, but inside you. Because the real miracle of faith is not just in the outcome. It's in the transformation that happens when you dare to move. You've been asking for God to show his power. But what if he's been asking you to show yours? The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is alive in you right now. That's not poetic. It's reality. You don't have to live beneath your calling. You don't have to shrink back because of fear. You don't have to let the weight of your past rob you of your future. There's a fire in you that the enemy can't extinguish. There's a gift in you that time can't erase. There's a calling on you that no man can cancel. But none of it will manifest if you keep holding back. You've got to move. You've got to decide that today is the day. Not next week. Not next year. Today. The power is not in waiting. It's in work. The miracle is not in the wishing. It's in the doing. You've been equipped. You've been anointed. You've been positioned. Everything you need for the next level is already within your reach. The power is in your hand. Now put your faith into action. Faith requires action. It is not just a concept to discuss, not merely a verse to memorize, not a warm feeling we hold in our hearts while waiting for circumstances to change. Faith is movement. It is a decision to align your steps with what you believe, even when what you see doesn't match what you're trusting God for. Too often we talk about faith like it's a comfortable chair we sit in. But the truth is, faith is more like a path you walk, one step at a time, into the unknown, trusting that the one who called you will guide you. Faith without action is like having a lamp with no oil. It may look good on the outside, but it will never produce light. It's like having a map and never getting in the car. You can study the route all you want, but you'll never arrive if you don't move. You can believe in the promises of God, but if you never take the steps to live in them, they will remain words on a page instead of realities in your life. There's a reason the Bible says, faith without works is dead. That's not to diminish the importance of belief. It's to remind us that belief without obedience is incomplete. If you say you trust God for provision, but never start the business He placed on your heart, you're not exercising faith. You're exercising hesitation. If you say you believe in healing, but never pray boldly for it, or take steps toward it, your faith remains dormant. Action is what gives faith its power in the physical world. We often mistake waiting for faithfulness, but sometimes waiting is just fear dressed up as patience. We convince ourselves that we're waiting on God, when in reality, God is waiting on us to use what He has already given. The disciples didn't just believe Jesus could feed the 5,000. They brought Him the loaves and fishes. The woman with the issue of blood didn't just believe Jesus could heal her. She pressed through the crowd to touch His garment. She acted. Faith always has legs. Faith always moves toward what it believes. Faith is risky because it forces you out of the safety of the known, into the uncertainty of the unseen. You can't tiptoe into faith. It requires a step that feels uncomfortable, a leap that looks illogical. But that's where the power is. If you only take steps when you have all the details, you're not walking by faith. You're walking by sight. True faith is trusting that God's plan is secure, even when your path is unclear. It's not enough to pray for a better job, you've got to apply. It's not enough to believe for reconciliation. You've got to make the call. It's not enough to trust God with your finances. You've got to start managing them in a way that honors Him. Faith without action is a dream without a deadline. It remains in the realm of someday, instead of becoming your today. Faith also requires persistence in action. Sometimes people take one step, don't see immediate results, and retreat back into comfort. But faith is not a one-time leap. It's a lifestyle of walking, even when you can't see the finish line. Noah didn't just build the ark for a week. He built it for years. Abraham didn't just take one step out of his homeland. He kept going without knowing where he was going. Faith requires consistency, because action without persistence is just a momentary burst of courage, not a life of trust. Fear will always try to stand between you and your faith. In action, fear will tell you to wait for the right time. Fear will magnify what could go wrong and shrink what could go right. But action has a way of silencing fear. When you move, you prove to yourself and to the enemy that you believe God more than you believe your doubt. You don't wait for courage to show up before you act. You act and courage meets you along the way. Faith in action also demands preparation. You can't say you're believing for rain and never dig a ditch. You can't declare you're ready for opportunity, but never prepare your skill set, your heart, or your environment. Sometimes the action of faith is simply getting ready for what hasn't happened yet. Setting the table before the guests arrive. Buying the crib before the baby is conceived. Writing the speech before the invitation comes. Preparation is proof that you expect God to move. Another dimension of faith in action is sacrifice. There will be moments when stepping out in faith costs you something. time, comfort, relationships, security. Action will test whether your faith is real or just convenient. Peter had to leave the safety of the boat to walk on water. That boat represented safety, predictability, and control. But the miracle wasn't in the boat, it was in the water. If you never risk stepping out, you'll never experience what stepping out can do. Faith in action is also contagious. When people see you move on what you believe, it inspires them to do the same. Think about David running toward Goliath. His courage stirred the entire army of Israel. One person's faith can break the paralysis of fear. For many others, your obedience could be the catalyst for someone else's breakthrough. Your step of faith could unlock doors for your family, your community, your generation. Sometimes the hardest part of faith in action is starting small. We think the first step has to be huge, dramatic, and world-changing. But often faith is built in the small, hidden actions no one sees. It's choosing integrity when it would be easier to compromise. It's forgiving the person who hurt you before they apologize. It's showing up to serve when you feel unsafe. Those small acts of obedience prepare you for the bigger moments of faith. When you put faith into action, you stop living in reaction to your fears and start living in alignment with your purpose. You begin to realize that faith is not about avoiding storms. It's about walking through them with confidence. It's not about waiting until you feel worthy. It's about trusting the one who makes you worthy. It's not about the absence of uncertainty. It's about the presence of God in your uncertainty. Faith is a muscle, and action is the workout. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The first step may feel shaky. The second may feel uncertain. But as you keep moving, your faith becomes steady, your vision becomes clearer, and your confidence in God grows deeper. Eventually, you look back and realize the thing that once terrified you has become your testimony. When you act in faith, you're not just moving toward your promise. You're becoming the person God designed you to be in the process. Faith changes you as much as it changes your circumstances. It develops endurance, patience, resilience, and boldness. It shifts your identity from someone who wishes to someone who works, from someone who hopes to someone who acts. The truth is, God has already equipped you with the gifts, the ideas, the opportunities, and the open doors you need. But those resources won't activate themselves. The power of your faith will be seen not just in what you believe, but in what you do about what you believe. The power is already in you. You are not empty. You are not lacking. You are not waiting to be filled with something you've never had. When God formed you, He didn't make a mistake. He didn't send you into this world half prepared, hoping you'd figure the rest out later. He placed within you every tool, every gift, every ability, and every ounce of strength you would need to fulfill the calling on your life. From the moment you took your first breath, you were carrying divine potential. We often live as though we are powerless, waiting for someone to hand us the keys to our destiny. But you already hold them. They are in the form of your talents, your passions, your ideas, your resilience, and the Spirit of God that breathes in you. Too many people spend their lives searching for something outside of themselves to validate them, forgetting that the Creator of the universe has already validated them from the beginning. You don't need to wait for permission when heaven has already given you an assignment. The enemy works hard to convince you that you are deficient, that you are missing something, that you need someone else to complete you. But if God needed you to have more than what you have right now, He would have given it to you by now. The fact that you are here in this moment with the resources, the experiences, and even the scars you have means you are already equipped for what you're called to do today. When Moses stood before the burning bush, telling God he couldn't speak well enough to lead the people, God asked him, "What is that in your hand?" It was just a staff, ordinary, simple, unimpressive. But when placed under God's direction, that ordinary staff became the instrument of miracles. The same is true for you. You may look at what you have and think it's insignificant, but in God's hands, it's more than enough. The reason so many people feel powerless is that they underestimate what's already inside them. They're waiting for a title before they lead, for money before they create, for applause before they speak, for a perfect moment before they act. But you don't need a title to lead. You need vision. You don't need a full bank account to start. You need a seed of faith. You don't need the world's approval to speak. You need the courage to open your mouth. The power isn't in what's coming, it's in what you already can. God has placed unique gifts inside of you that no one else has in the exact way you do. That means there is a solution in you that the world needs. There is an idea in you that can change an industry. There is a word in you that can shift someone's life. There is a strategy in you that can break generational cycles. But if you keep believing the lie that you need more before you move, those gifts will stay locked inside of you. We live in a world that constantly tries to measure our worth by comparison. We look at what others have, their resources, their connections, their influence, and we convince ourselves that they have power while we have nothing. But power is not about how much you have, it's about how you use what you have. David didn't defeat Goliath with the king's armor. He defeated him with a sling and a stone. What you already have, when paired with faith, is enough to bring down giants. You have to stop disqualifying yourself because you don't look like what you think powerful should be. Power doesn't always come dressed in prestige or position. Sometimes it comes wrapped in humility, in quiet strength, in the willingness to try when no one else will. Real power is not in the spotlight, it's in the ability to keep moving forward when no one's watching. Inside of you is the power to shift atmospheres, to influence decisions, to break barriers. That power is not something you need to go find. It's something you need to activate. And activation happens when you stop looking for someone else to hand you your breakthrough and start using what's already in your possession. The question is not whether you have power. The question is whether you believe it enough to use it. Every challenge you've faced has been shaping that power. Every season of waiting has been sharpening it. Every moment you thought was wasted was actually preparation. The experiences you thought would break you have built you. The pain you thought would destroy you has deepened your compassion, strengthened your resolve, and increased your wisdom. Even your weaknesses, when surrendered to God, become part of your power, because they keep you dependent on His strength. When you understand that the power is already in you, you stop living like a victim of circumstances. You stop blaming your lack of progress on what you don't have, and start focusing on what you do have. You start seeing opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to realize that you don't have to wait for the perfect alignment of conditions. You can create momentum with what's in your hand right now. The enemy doesn't fight you because of where you are. He fights you because of the power you carry. He knows that if you ever wake up to the truth of what's inside you, you will be unstoppable. That's why he tries to distract you with doubt, to bury you under fear, to keep you so focused on your weaknesses that you forget your strength. But the moment you decide to operate from the authority and ability God has given you, the game changes. The power in you is not just natural, it's spiritual. It's not limited to your education, your background, or your skill. It's the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead, living inside you. That means your potential is not capped by your circumstances. It means your influence is not limited to your current environment. It means you have divine backup for every step you take in. You don't have to wait for a stage to use your voice. You don't have to wait for a crowd to walk in your calling. You don't have to wait for a sign to take the next step. Every gift you need to make an impact is already in seed form inside of you. It's your responsibility to cultivate it, to water it with action, and to trust God for the increase. If you keep looking outside of yourself for what only God has placed within you, you'll always feel powerless. But when you recognize that you are already carrying everything you need for the next step, you'll start to move differently. You'll stop asking, when will my moment come? And start declaring, my moment is now. Because the power to begin, to build, to step out, to overcome. It's not on the way, it's been in your hands all along. Don't wait for perfect conditions. If you keep telling yourself that you'll start when the timing is right, when the finances are lined up, when the kids are grown, when the fear is gone, you will look back years from now and realize you were always waiting and never lived. There will never be a time when every detail falls into place exactly as you imagined. Life is not designed to clear a flawless path before you move. Faith is designed to move you forward in the middle of imperfection. The idea of perfect conditions is a trap. It's a way the enemy disguises procrastination as wisdom. You convince yourself you're being cautious, being prudent, being patient, but deep down you know you're hesitating, because it's easier to wait for ideal circumstances than to face the risk of stepping out in the messiness of reality. The problem is, the longer you wait for perfect, the more opportunity passes you by. Think about the heroes of faith. Noah didn't wait until the skies grew dark to start building the ark. Abraham didn't wait until he had a map to leave his homeland. David didn't wait until he had years of military training to face Goliath. None of them had perfect conditions. They had faith and a word from God. And that was enough. The conditions didn't need to be perfect, because the one who called them. If you're waiting for perfect conditions, you're actually waiting for something that doesn't exist. There will always be a reason to delay. There will always be uncertainty about the outcome. There will always be obstacles in the way. The question is not whether you have a clear obstacle-free path. The question is whether you'll move despite the obstacles. Some people wait for the fear to go away before they take action. But fear doesn't evaporate just because you wait. In fact, the longer you wait, the more fear grows. Fear loses its grip when you move in spite of it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward even when fear is present. If you wait until you feel ready, you may never move at all. Because readiness is not a feeling, it's a choice. Others wait for resources to appear before they start. They tell themselves they'll pursue the vision when they have enough money, enough connections, enough influence. But some of the greatest breakthroughs come when you take a step without having everything you think you need. That's where faith steps in. God often provides as you move, not before. The manna came daily in the wilderness, not in a year's supply up front. The oil for the widow multiplied as she poured, not while it sat still in the jar. Waiting for perfect conditions also robs you of the growth that comes from starting small. You might think you're protecting yourself by delaying, but you're actually depriving yourself of the lessons, experience, and resilience that only come from doing. Every step you take, even if it's imperfect, teaches you something that waiting never could. Progress beats perfection. Every single time. The truth is, you don't need everything to be lined up to make a difference. You just need to take the next step with what you have. That step may be clumsy, it may be small, it may be messy, but momentum is built one move at a time. The people who make an impact in this world are not the ones who had perfect beginnings. They're the ones who began. Sometimes the need for perfect conditions is just a cover for the fear of failure. If you wait until everything is ideal, you can tell yourself that you're not starting because the time isn't right, not because you're afraid. But here's the truth. You will fail at some things. You will make mistakes. You will face setbacks. And that's not a sign to quit. It's a sign you're growing. Failure is not the opposite of progress. It's part of it. Life has a way of rewarding the people who act in faith, rather than waiting for certainty. Doors open as you walk toward them. Relationships form as you start the journey. Provision comes as you step into the assignment. Waiting for perfect conditions is like waiting for the ocean to be completely calm before you set sail. You'll never leave the shore. The calm you're hoping for may never come, but the adventure you were made for is out there, waiting for you to move. Sometimes God will intentionally call you into a place where the conditions are not perfect, just to show you that His power is not limited by your environment. He'll put you in a situation where the odds are against you so that when you succeed, you'll know it was His hand that made the way. If you only move when everything looks ideal, you rob yourself of the miracles that happen in the middle of the storm. The people who change the world are the ones who move when it's inconvenient, who act when it's unpopular, who step out when it's uncertain. They refuse to wait for perfect because they know that time is a gift, and once it's gone, it doesn't come back. Every day you delay is a day you could have been building, growing, or impacting someone's life. It's also important to remember that what feels imperfect to you may actually be the perfect setup for God to work. You may think you need more time, but God may know that now is the moment when your heart is most teachable. You may think you need more resources, but God may be preparing to show you how to multiply what's in your hand. You may think you need more confidence, but God may be about to prove that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. Imperfect conditions don't limit God. They only test whether you trust Him enough to act. The very thing you see as a limitation could be the very thing that positions you for breakthrough. Sometimes the miracle is not in the removal of the obstacle, but in your ability to move forward with the obstacle still there. When you stop waiting for perfect conditions, you free yourself from the prison of someday. Someday is not a day on the calendar. It's a mindset that keeps you stuck. You tell yourself, someday I'll write that book, someday I'll start that business, someday I'll walk in my purpose, but someday never arrives unless you choose to make it today. If you want to see what God can do in your life, you have to move in the middle of the uncertainty. You have to be willing to take the step without having the full picture. You have to trust that the God who called you will equip you, guide you, and sustain you, even when the conditions don't seem favorable. The most powerful moments of faith are rarely convenient. They're birthed in the tension between what is and what could be. Your breakthrough may be one imperfect step away. The opportunity you've been praying for may already be in front of you, but you've been waiting for a sign when the real sign is the burning desire in your heart. Don't waste another season waiting for life to be perfectly aligned. Move now, act now, build now, because perfection is not the starting point. It's the fruit of taking action and growing along the way. Take the first step in courage. That's where everything begins. Not in knowing the entire plan, not in having every resource, not in waiting for the fear to fade, but in deciding that the first step matters enough to take even if it feels uncertain. The truth is, the hardest step is rarely the 10th, the 20th, or even the 100th. It's the first. That's because the first step is where you break the inertia of staying still. It's where you stop thinking and start moving, where you cross the line between intention and action. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to move forward, while fear is whispering every reason to stop. That whisper will never fully go away before you take the leap. If you wait until you feel completely confident, you may never move at all. Courage meets you after you take the first step, not before. It's when you step into the unknown that you discover you're braver than you thought, and stronger than you imagined. We often think courage is about big, dramatic moments. Standing before a crowd, leading a movement, facing a giant, but most of the time, courage begins in quiet, unseen decisions. It's the courage to send the application, the courage to pick up the phone, the courage to start the project, the courage to speak up in a meeting. Those small acts of boldness may not seem like much at first, but they are the building blocks of a life lived by faith. The first step is always the one that breaks the comfort of where you are. That's why it feels so heavy. Your comfort zone will never challenge you to grow, but stepping out will. That's the beauty and the challenge of courage. It requires leaving behind the safety of the familiar. The fishermen had to drop their nets to follow Jesus. Peter had to step out of the boat to walk on water. Each of these moments began with one step that looked risky, but it positioned them for miracles. Courage doesn't guarantee instant success. It doesn't mean you'll see results overnight, but it guarantees movement. And movement is what changes your life. Stagnation will never bring transformation, but a single step in the right direction can change the trajectory of your future. The step itself may feel small, but the ripple effect it creates can be massive. Many people overthink the first step because they believe it has to be perfect. They want to start with something big and impressive, something that makes an immediate impact. But courage is rarely glamorous. It's often clumsy, awkward, and uncomfortable. You may stumble as you begin. You may feel exposed. You may even feel like you're not ready. But readiness is built in motion, not in waiting. You become prepared by doing, not by sitting still. There is a spiritual principle at work in taking the first step. When you move, God moves. The Red Sea didn't part while Israel stood still, wondering if it would work. It parted when Moses stretched out his staff and moved forward. The walls of Jericho didn't fall while the people discussed battle strategies. They fell as they marched in obedience. The first step is not just physical. It's an act of faith that invites the supernatural into your situation. Courage will always require you to face resistance. That resistance can come from your own mind, from the voices of others, or from the challenges of life. The enemy will try to magnify every reason you shouldn't start. Your lack of experience, your past failures, your current limitation. But courage answers those lies with action. It says, I may not have all I want, but I'll use what I have. It says, I may not know everything, but I'll start with what I know. Taking the first step also shifts your identity. As long as you remain still, you see yourself as someone who wants to or plans to or hopes to. But the moment you move, you become someone who does. That shift is powerful because it changes how you approach the rest of the journey. Instead of being a dreamer who talks about what could be, you become a doer who is living it out, one step at a time. The first step doesn't have to be big, but it has to be intentional. Maybe your first step toward better health is walking around the block. Maybe your first step toward financial freedom is creating a simple budget. Maybe your first step toward reconciliation is sending a single message. These moments may seem small compared to the big picture, but without them, the big picture will never happen. Sometimes courage means starting even when you know you'll face criticism. Not everyone will understand your step of faith. Some people will question it. Some will doubt you. Some will try to talk you out of it because it challenges their own fear of movement. But courage doesn't wait for consensus. It acts in conviction. Your first step is not a vote for public approval. It's a declaration of trust in the one who called you. When you take the first step, you create momentum. Momentum is powerful because it makes the next step easier. The longer you stay still, the heavier the weight of starting becomes. But once you're in motion, you begin to find a rhythm. You start to see progress. You start to believe in the possibility of what's ahead. One step leads to another. And before you know it, you're further along than you thought possible. You may never feel ready for the first step, but you don't have to feel ready to be ready. You only need to be willing. Willingness is the open door that courage walks through. When you're willing to move despite fear, despite uncertainty, despite imperfection, you step into a place where God can do more with your obedience than you could have done with your preparation alone. Sometimes the hardest part is not the step itself, but deciding to take it. You play the scenarios in your head. You rehearse the what-ifs. You wait for a guarantee that doesn't exist. But life will not hand you absolute certainty. What you do have is a promise that God will never leave you or forsake you, and that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. That promise is enough to step forward. Your courage to take the first step may inspire others more than you realize. Someone else is watching you, wondering if it's possible to move from where they are to where they're called to be. When they see you take your step, it stirs something in them. They think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Your courage creates a chain reaction that can break the paralysis of fear in someone else's life. The first step may be quiet. It may be hidden. It may feel like it's barely moving the needle. But in the spiritual realm, it's massive. It signals that you're no longer waiting for life to happen. You're stepping into it. It's a statement to every voice of doubt, every past failure, every obstacle in your path. I'm moving forward. The beauty of courage is that it grows. What feels terrifying today will feel like second nature tomorrow. But that growth only happens when you take the step. You don't need to see the entire road. You just need to trust that the same God who gave you the courage to start will give you the strength to continue. The first step is simply saying yes, even when you don't know exactly where it will lead, and trusting that you won't take it alone. Your moment is now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not after you feel more prepared. Now, this is the moment you've been praying about, the moment you've been envisioning, the moment that has been stirring in your spirit for far too long. We often think life-changing moments come with grand announcements, flashing signs or dramatic music in the background, but most of the time they come quietly. They come in the form of an opportunity you could either step into or step away from. They come disguised as a choice to act or to wait, to move or to stay still. We tell ourselves that we're waiting for the right time, but more often than not, the right time is an illusion. It's a story we tell ourselves to delay action because action feels risky. But if you look back over your life, you'll see that some of your greatest growth happened when you stepped forward before you felt ready. The conditions weren't perfect, the resources weren't all there, but you moved anyway. And that's when things began to shift. Now is powerful because now is all you truly have. Yesterday is gone, and tomorrow is not promised. The only time you can actually make a decision, take an action, or change your life is in this moment. Every dream you have, every goal you envision, every prayer you've prayed will remain a concept until you decide that now is the time to bring it into reality. Delay is the silent killer of destiny. There's a danger in telling yourself you'll start someday. Someday is not a date on the calendar. It's a mindset that keeps you trapped in the comfort of wishing, while avoiding the discomfort of doing. Someday convinces you that you have more time than you actually do. But the truth is, every day you delay is a day you could have been building, growing and impacting the world around you. You don't have to wait for life to hand you a perfect invitation to your future. The invitation has already been given to you in the form of the breath in your body, the vision in your mind, and the desire in your heart. If God has placed something within you, that's your green light. That's your sign. Too many people miss their season because they're waiting for another confirmation when the evidence is already inside them. Your moment is now because the door that is open today may not be open tomorrow. Opportunity has a rhythm. It comes in waves, and you have to be willing to step into it when it arrives. If you hesitate too long, you risk watching the wave pass you by. God can always open new doors, but some doors are tied to specific seasons. If you miss them, you may not lose the calling, but you may delay the timing. Fear will tell you to wait until you feel stronger. Insecurity will tell you to wait until you feel more qualified. But strength is built in motion, and qualification grows with action. You don't become ready before you start. You become ready because you start. The very act of stepping out now will shape you into the person who can handle what's ahead. Sometimes the enemy's greatest tactic isn't to get you to say no, it's to get you to say later. Because later feels harmless, later feels reasonable, later allows you to believe you still have control. But later has a way of turning into never. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to take the leap. That's why now matters. Now breaks the cycle. Now seizes momentum. Your moment is now because the circumstances you see as insufficient may actually be exactly what God will use. You may think you need more resources, but God may be about to multiply what's in your hand. You may think you need more time, but God may be about to accelerate the process. You may think you need more confidence, but God may be about to prove that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. Waiting for everything to be ideal may seem wise, but it often means you're trying to lean on your own understanding instead of trusting His time. The present moment is holy ground. It's where faith becomes action. It's where the invisible begins to take form. If you keep waiting for the stars to align, you'll miss the beauty of watching God align them as you move. Some of the most miraculous breakthroughs happen not because people had everything in place, but because they dared to take a step when the situation still looked incomplete. Now is the time to invest in your calling. Now is the time to have the hard conversation. Now is the time to start building what you've been dreaming about. You don't need to see the entire road, just the next step, and that next step is available to you right now, in this very moment. Procrastination is a thief, but so is regret. Regret is heavier than fear, because it comes with the weight of knowing you had a chance and didn't take it. Don't let the future version of yourself look back, wishing you had acted when you had the chance. The discomfort of moving now will always be lighter than the pain of wishing you had. The truth is, this moment will never come again. Even if a similar opportunity comes in the future, it won't be exactly like this one. With these people, in this environment, under these circumstances, every moment is unique, and every moment carries the potential to be a turning point if you're willing to seize it. This is not about rushing blindly into things without thought. It's about recognizing that overthinking can become a form of disobedience. You can pray, prepare, and plan, but at some point you have to decide. You have to say, this is the moment I've been given, and I'm going to use it. That's when dreams leave the safety of your imagination and enter the reality of your life. If you've been praying for a sign, look at your own restlessness. Look at the ideas you can't shake, the opportunities that keep appearing, the people who keep encouraging you to move. These are not coincidences, they are confirmation. And if you ignore them long enough, you risk hardening your heart to the very direction you've been asking God for. Your moment is now, because the world doesn't need a future version of you. It needs the version that's willing to start today. The one who's willing to learn as they go. The one who's willing to fail and try again. The one who's willing to trust God enough to act even without knowing how it will end. That's the person who changes their life. That's the person who changes the lives of others. You may feel small compared to the size of your dream, but the dream isn't asking you to finish it all today. It's asking you to start today. One action, one decision, one leap. That's all it takes to shift the momentum in your favor. And once you start, you'll wonder why you waited so long. The moment is here. The opportunity is present. The question is whether you will let fear, doubt, or hesitation hold you back, or whether you will look at this moment with all its imperfections and uncertainties and declare that it is enough to begin. Because the truth is, it always has been. Everything you've been carrying in your heart, every whisper of vision God has placed in your spirit, every stirring that won't let you sleep at night, it's all been leading to this moment. You are not empty. You are not unprepared. You are not behind. The same God who spoke the stars into existence spoke purpose into you, and that purpose is crying out to be lived. Faith without works is dead, and potential without action is wasted. You can't keep standing on the shore waiting for the waves to be calm before you step in. You have to trust the one who called you and believe that if he brought you this far, he's not about to leave you now. The power is already in your hand. The opportunity is already in your path. Your moment is not on the horizon. It's here. So step forward. Take the leap and watch the impossible, go to the God who works through those who dare to move.